Did you know that after 2018, any properties that was built new or first occupied doesn't fall under the landlord and tenant guideline rental increase?
Wow.
Yeah. And so what is key is now you're hearing in the news that a lot of landlords are facing a lot of problems, challenges. Tenants not paying rent, tenants not moving out, landlords not being able to pay their mortgages because of that. Now, we are going to discuss how we are going to deal with those challenges, those pitfalls, and then guide you through the process. My name is Jom Joseph with the Jom Joseph Real Estate team.
My name is Jom Joseph. I'm a real estate broker and a mortgage agent.
I'm Jessenia. I'm a real estate agent and the admin and marketing coordinator.
I'm Cicy, the realtor with the team. Are you thinking of an investment and want to avoid all the pitfalls with the tenants? We are here to discuss all that with you. And we want to make sure that you have a smooth transition, getting the right tenants with the right amount of the rent which is going in the market. We can do it for you. What we want to let you know is that we do the right screening for the tenants, and we want to make sure that you rent to the right people. So instead of getting the bad tenant in, we always suggest them keep the property vacant for some time, and then let's make sure we have the right tenant in.
So why are people so scared to rent out their properties? I'm sure you guys have seen countless news reports of bad tenants, people who stop paying their rent, are damaging the property, refusing to leave. Unfortunately, this is becoming more and more common, but it's really important, especially as a landlord, just to be really well educated so that you can avoid these issues from arising.
That's a good point, Jessenia, you mentioned. We had a client actually had a property in Scarborough, and the tenant is living almost 15 years there.
Yeah.
And the landlord wanted to sell the property, and because the value of the property almost doubled. Now he wanted to give a notice to end the lease, and instead of giving the landlord giving notice to the tenant, after discussing with the paralegal, the tenant give us the N9 form, because that N9 form have more valid in the court compared to the landlord giving notice. What you said is correct. There are so many issues happening in a real estate rental market. But if you look at the percentages, only 2 to 3% only bad tenants in Ontario or in Canada. But doesn't mean that the real estate investment is bad, because it's a very great investment. Real estate, always the property value goes up, right? When we look at the lease agreement, we have so many valid points we added in the lease agreement to make the lease agreement more stronger. And also we screen the tenants in a proper way, including the job letter, verification of their employment, previous employment, credit history, the credit score, and also the previous address where they stayed. We also Google them to make sure that they are genuine tenant, right? And also there are so many apps these days in the market like SingleKey and also OpenRoom to see where the tenant's history and all, right? So there are so many ways we can screen the tenant to make sure they are genuine tenant and they have a good history. As I said, there's only 2 to 3% of the tenants maybe sometimes giving trouble to the landlord, but the story comes so much more than saying the tenant is renting a property is sometimes a headache, but actually not, because always there's the pain, right? Any investment, there's always a pain and risk. Doesn't mean that all the investments are bad. No, real estate is a great investment always.
Absolutely. And the rental market in Ontario is still really strong. So I think as long as you're doing your due diligence, hiring a really good real estate team like the Jom Joseph team to be able to screen these tenants for you and bring in a good tenant, then you definitely still have a really great opportunity of building wealth for you and your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to add to that, I would always suggest it's good to have the bank statements from every tenant, and just to confirm that the income that's showing on the employment letter, it's actually coming into their account.
That's right.
Because we had a couple of cases where they gave the employment letter, which was not true. When we asked for the bank statement, actually the money was not coming to their account. Then they were trying to give some
explanation,
which we won't avoid.
Yeah.
So I would always suggest all of our clients make sure that you have all the documents correct and be there.
Yeah, I mean, some cases you can even ask the tax document to make sure they are genuine tenant, and the income what they say they made last year or this year actually reflect on their T1 general or even T4, right? So we can ask more document. There's nothing wrong in it, because everything they provide, everything is confidential.
Yeah, I think Jessenia, you had an instance too where you had to go and make sure when they applied, the tenant applied, that they had the right papers and everything, right?
Yeah, I actually helped one of my landlord clients about a year and a half ago, and we received an offer for their property. And on paper, everything seemed good. My client seemed like they were happy with what they received and willing to accept. But in going through the due diligence process, it's really important to really look into all the information that they're providing us. Yeah. More and more often, we're hearing of cases with people who have fake paperwork. And as I mentioned, everything seemed great on paper. Something as simple as me Googling their name, we ended up finding out they had warrants for their arrest. The last property they were living in was raided, and thankfully that was something that we did our job on and did a good job on, and were able to catch something like that to really avoid them from dealing with what you can imagine would have been a huge headache.
Yeah, and I think in one cases, they actually have names that you verify they know them or whatever. They gave even fake people to verify. Yeah. So we have to make sure we look into so much detail.
Yeah, sometimes the supervisor might be their friends, who knows, right?
Yeah.
The manager, supervisors, they mention on the lease agreement, the rental application might be their friends or families, right? Yeah, we have to even verify their title also in the same company which they mentioned on the rental application.
Yeah. Right. And the platform you mentioned, OpenRoom, is really good as well. It's free to use. You could use it as landlord, tenants, real estate agents. Yeah. You put in the tenant's name or the address, and it'll let you know if there's any existing court orders, for example, if they stop paying their rent and the landlord's trying to evict them. So that's another good option to use.
Yeah. And I know there is there's new laws that the city bylaw has enacted, where also to protect the tenants, that the landlords doesn't make fake reno applications or permits, which actually makes the tenant leave after a certain time. So there is also protection for the tenants. That's that good. The city recently enacted a bylaw. But also what is key is any rental property that is actually built brand new, like for example, we had a basement apartment that was built brand new, and that falls under what was built after 2018, where we actually got $300 more compared to the average rent in that area. Now, we know that, landlords are facing a lot of challenges with, non-payment, evictions, and you hear that a lot in the news. But when you look at the whole picture, that's like a small percentage compared to people who are actually making large sums of money in rental income and price appreciation.
If you have any more questions, we do have a free upcoming webinar on Thursday, May 29 at 7 p.m., where we're going to be talking about issues with landlord and tenant board, investment properties, and multiplexes. So if you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing, please make sure to email us, give us a call, or click the link below to register. We look forward to seeing you there.